Thank you. You are now being joined to your...
In these organizations with, and it was semi-structured with the L&D professionals, but also with line managers from these 3 different organizations. And in total, we did 15 in-depth interviews. When we had these interviewed results, we did an analysis of the interview transcripts. And we found that a couple of themes emerged from analyzing these transcripts, like, for example, the approach organizations have to L&D, the nature of their organizations, the attitude the organizations have towards L&D, and also the L&D function. How is it perceived? What is the role? What is the personal background of the people working in that L&D function? What then started is a coding process, and that was quite labor-intensive. We did a coding process of all the transcripts, and from that, further themes and sub-themes emerged. But we mainly looked at, and in the research report, you will find a detailed overview of each of these 3 case studies and a full detailed report on the areas that I just mentioned and how they approached L&D. But today I want to focus more on the implications that we see for L&D professionals. From the research, various themes that came up, and we were looking for the implications for L&D professionals in terms of overcoming the challenges that they currently face, and also to establish themselves as an influential and strategic partner in the business. What we found is that, in fact, L&D experts who are in a position that they are really influential and are seen and perceived as a strategic partner, they are capable in 3 main areas. One being the GRID, the trusted advisor, the other one the L&D expert, and last but not least being the OD expert. I will go in depth a little bit more on each of the 3 circles, but before I do that, maybe it's nice to say that I have tested this also in later conversations with clients, and I've heard from a lot of clients that it really resonated with them, and they also recognize the 3 main areas based on work that they did internally, what people expect from an impactful L&D professional. The first one that I want to look at is being the GRID and the trusted advisor, and that goes also back to the point that all of you felt was very relevant, to have access to the strategic plans of the organization. What is the case here is what is key in being the GRID, and maybe I should say something about being the GRID that forms the pearl is the rest of the sentence, because being the GRID is kind of being the GRID that irritates the system a bit, but by irritating it, something beautiful is created, the pearl. So that is the reference, and if you would wonder what being the GRID is about, that's that. Having the trusted advisor role, what is crucial to that is building the relationships with the key stakeholders in the organization. That will enable people and L&D professionals to really understand the business needs, and that is a starting point to really develop an impactful L&D strategy. To be able to develop these key relationships, it is crucial that people have the right relational skills and are able to engage in these strategic conversations and can challenge and push back, and by that being a bit the GRID that forms the pearl, or helps form the pearl. Talking about relational skills, that takes an understanding of how you are, what your personal impact is, how you can influence, and also the business partnering and consulting skills. In fact, you were asked in that trusted advisor role to almost be the role model and show the behavior that you expect from the rest of the organization to happen. If we then go to the next area, which is being the OD expert, what happens here is that it's really important to make a mark in the organization, is that you understand how you come from individual change and helping people develop and change their behaviors in their daily work, is how you come from that to helping change the organization as a system, as a whole. And that means that is a separate part, or almost a separate role of the L&D professional. And in here is also important your influence on helping establish a learning culture. So you need to understand how systemic change happens, how a learning organization can be developed and supported, and that is the second area that we felt was really outstandingly important also for L&D professionals to make an impact. Last but certainly not least, the third area that we saw was really important in creating an influential and strategic position was having the L&D expertise, understanding how people learn and change. And this is, in fact, the almost crucial functional specialist area that a lot of people in the L&D profession almost grew up in and are that is where they have their background in. So this is the functional expertise. It is about understanding how adults learn. It is understanding how individuals can change their behavior. It is around understanding how to design a really impactful intervention and how to create an environment where people can transform their learning from the intervention back to the normal day-to-day work life. So it requires the expertise and really in-depth understanding of how people learn and develop and what is important in the context of that. If we then look at back to the model of the three main areas, which is on this slide. So these are the three areas that are of crucial importance and that we feel capture the practical implications for L&D professionals to create a strategic and influential position. We looked at this from an Ashridge perspective, and we thought, because we, as we said, we are all very passionate about helping people to make it work in their organizations, and we realized that we do offer some support to our clients in the being the grid area and also the OD expertise. I will mention some examples, but we will not go in depth in this webinar because this webinar is mainly focused on the L&D expertise area. But if you want to know more about the other two areas, I'm so happy to talk to you if you want, or to give you some further information, because we do have some case studies around that. Just to briefly mention the things that we do for clients to support them in the two trusted advisor and how organizations change areas. We have a program that we offer which is around consulting and change in organizations, which in fact covers both the purple and the orange area, because it is about how organizations change, so understanding in-depth change, but also having a deep reflection on how you are in situations where you have conversations. So what about your relational skills? How are your consulting skills? What is your personal impact when you talk to people? What are the different kind of interventions that you could do to have the proper conversations around and really understand what your stakeholders and the organization's needs are, because that is crucial to really make an L&D strategy that makes sense. So that is a program that we offer. Another program, mainly in the O&D expertise role, we offer a master in organizational change and a doctorate in organizational change, and that of course offers an in-depth perspective on how organizations develop and change. So I just wanted to mention that. So if you think, you know, where do I need to focus my development and where is it that I lack maybe some capabilities or some experience or some practice, these are the things we offer, and I can also share with you, if you want, some case studies that we did for two clients. We worked with a bank around their business partnering skills for their functional specialist, where we worked on a mental shift for these financial people from their expert role to becoming a more consultant-focused person. We also worked with a national trust, and we helped them to develop their internal consulting capacity. And that was a piece of award-winning work. We won a Best Practice Award in organizational development back in 2010. That work was a mix of personal development work and also organizational development work. So if you want to know more, just contact any one of us, and we can help you to the material or to brochures if you want. But like I said, today is mainly about, we want to focus really on the L&D expertise, because we realized that as Ashridge we have a lot of knowledge and expertise in L&D, but we share that with our clients in conversations, but there's no program, or it's not as central as the other things that we maybe do. And therefore, maybe, Lucy, it's a good moment to hand over to you, because you looked more in-depth into that area, and especially the needs of our clients.
Great, thanks, Inga. So Inga and Lee's research has clearly shown a need to support L&D professionals with development in this area, this crucial area of being an expert in learning and development. How to be at the heart of the business, so being a trusted advisor and being an OD expert and providing systematic change for your organisation, and how to have an impact, how to truly understand and affect the people in your organisation, so this L&D expert. So knowing what the research had showed, we wanted to really make sure there was capacity in the market for a programme that we would then go on and develop. So we went out into the market using a draft programme design based on Inga and Lee's research and our experience of adult learning. We did this over the last quarter of 2014, doing depth interviews with respondents who were all responsible for learning and development in their organisation across a mix of different types of organisations, different cultures, public and private, etc. And what was great about these was it echoed what we had previously seen in our practice and in the research. So this real need to deliver corporate advantage, the understanding of the business and the business strategy, and being there early enough to have an effect on where the organisation was going, because clearly without the people there is no sustainable organisation. So how to build that impact, and the L&D must be in there very, very early. And something we've heard from Inga about stakeholders, engaging them at all levels of the business, and sometimes giving a difficult message about what's needed in an organisation. So this desire to and need to be influential across the business, to be a role model even. And a really clear message was this assumption that the people we spoke to needed to know all the answers, not that they were at pace, but they were beyond pace, that they were already ahead. And this was coupled with an uncomfortable fact that goes back to slide 4 when we asked you to mark up your real issues, that there is a challenge for you guys to make time for your own development and to come out of the business. But what the research is saying, you really, really must do that, because you are at the heart of the success of your business as it moves forward. So those are two really key things. In terms of what you suggested the programme needed to look like, there was a desire for some fundamental skills, so looking at basic strategy models, leadership, needing the development that you provide for the rest of the organisation. Coupled with that was a desire for a professional certification or qualification, and some of that was about a visible sign that you were these leaders in your field, that you were very capable, that you really understood and were at the heart of your business. Also, not just theory, it had to be practical and hands-on. And another very clear message again back to the you're in L&D, you know everything, you know best. What we were going to deliver had to be innovative and new, and if we bundled up some traditional things, that just wouldn't be acceptable. That was a very clear message. So there was a split between needing some fundamental business skills in things like strategy, but also needing some of our new thinking, needing to be ahead of the curve. So those are the challenges that we had in going into thinking about the design for this programme. And I think at that point I will hand back to Jo for some interactivity.
So if anyone's got any comments or questions of what they've heard about so far, please do let us know. As Andy said before, you can either put that into the chat panel or raise your hand and we'll have a look for you. Lucy, interestingly, somewhere Roy has said here that it looks like L&D professionals are often the cobbler's children with no shoes. We're supposed to teach others but have no time to learn and upskill ourselves. So I think that's in agreement with everything you found.
Absolutely, and it comes across in when we're recruiting for all our programs. Actually, we have an HR program and other programs, and HR and L&D professionals desperately want to get development, but they find it very hard to get that accepted in their organisation. So the ultimate irony, really. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I can't agree more. And the strange thing is that as L&D professionals and the clients I talk to, they are so passionate also about the value of L&D themselves, and somehow, you know, they are just also like other leaders in the organization, and in fact even from a learning and development perspective, more important, because they are the ones who should role model almost the approach and the attitude towards learning and development. And again, budget pressure, time pressure, and all that holding them back from development.
Yeah, we've also had another comment about the issue here could be that it's more about money than time, and they don't seem to have any money to develop. Is there something there about influencing and letting the people at the heart of the business know how valuable this development is for L&D?
I think that's back to the split again between this real need from the learning and development community and the issue with developing themselves. It's certainly a question, as Inga said, when we have conversations with clients, there is a lot of conversation about return on investment, a lot of conversation about wanting to do more in less time, and I think sometimes we have to stand firm and really think about what it is that we need, because it can't just be about money. It has to be about impact on the future of the business, but I realise that sometimes that's a tough message to get across.
And the other thing that is maybe important to see, and we also covered that in our previous webinar, so maybe not too long, but it is not a one-off solution. It's not a development initiative or going to a program that will get you there. We heard from the case studies that we did that it is quite a tough and long journey to get to a position where you are influential and have a strategic impact, and it is this creating of small successes that builds a greater success, and it's about connecting the dots in the three different areas that makes it work and that finally will pay off, but it's not an easy quick fix solution.
Okay, thank you. Lucy, there's a question directly to you here from Asif. Could you talk about should L&D professionals stick to their USP or not? So I don't know if we need any more clarification around that question, or...
I'm wondering what the USP might be.
So I'll see if you could just give us a little bit more information there. Also, Jason's asked, is the future of L&D to be devoted to line managers, perhaps, as a cost efficiency? I don't know how we would see that or view that, or anyone else on the call.
I see a lot of more engagement of line managers with L&D tasks or objectives, so to speak. But there's always a crucial role because they also have, of course, other priorities and other business issues on their mind, and they also need some support in growing in that role and being skilled at that, because it takes them having different conversations with their people around development, which they are not used to. So that's a whole different area.
I don't think L&D can be devolved to line managers. I support Inga in what she just said. L&D needs to support line managers to deliver some of the L&D function. Obviously, their role as managers is to develop their people, and if they're not doing that, then they're not being very effective managers. But very often, they actually don't really know where to start. So some support and help is critical for them.
Some interesting thoughts and opinions coming in. Keep those coming in. I think we'll move on to Trisha's section. Might give us some more food for thought. And then we'll come back to some more questions a bit later on. Okay, so over to you, Trisha.
Thanks, Jo. So where we were when we finished these two pieces of research, we'd obviously identified a development need that we passionately wanted to fill and to meet. So we needed to try and pull it all together and offer something that would, as I say, meet those needs. And we had to backpedal a little bit and think about what we already know about how adults learn, L&D professionals already being successful adult learners. So we knew that the most effective learning is work-based. It's sort of in context, not in the classroom. We know that, although we do deliver classroom learning, but it's still got to be contextual. We know that it's not enough to offer new information and practice new skills. Adult learners need time to assimilate new knowledge and new skills and to work through it. So we knew that we wanted to design something with a modular format. It had to be relevant and practical to what people do on a daily basis. It had to be relevant to the businesses that people work in. That sort of boils down to what's often known as the 70-20-10 rule, that 70% of learning takes place on the job, 20% is what one can learn from other people and working with other people, and there is also a place for 10% worth of classroom or formally based learning. And we were interested really, and I'm going to ask you the question, I'd love some answers to this. The learning that you deliver as professionals, does it reflect that reality? I just wondered if anybody could give us a steer on that. Does that reflect the learning cultures that you are actually living and working with? Any thoughts on that? Yeah, I see that Andrew has sort of picked that up and said L&D professionals should be taking the lead, weaning folks off dependence on formal, and absolutely, we know that very, very much. But how can we support L&D people to do that in a better way? Floating business consultants, well, that's an interesting one. Online digital skills, flowing faster than we can adapt to. They may be flowing faster than we can adapt to. They're certainly not flowing faster than the talent that's coming into the workforce adapts to, I think. My goodness, this is coming thick and fast now. It is about culture change, yeah. Yep, it seems that your thinking is very much in line with ours. So I'll press on to what we then tried to do with designing some learning support for this. So a little bit of a recap, I guess. We're trying to meet the needs in the three areas that Inga developed. We want to deliver competitive advantage through the integration of L&D strategy with organisational strategy. And in many ways, we're seeing this as key, helping people to align L&D strategy with organisational strategy so that you are delivering development that helps your people to deliver that organisational strategy. We want to find a way of bringing into whatever learning we offer the real issues that are facing you every day, the challenges that you're experiencing. We also want to make a space to challenge the assumptions that you bring, you know, the things that sometimes constrain us into limiting what we think we can and what we can't do. We want to really offer you, obviously, the knowledge and the skills. You have those already, but to make sure that the knowledge and skills you have really help you to make a difference and make L&D much more effective, rather than sending somebody on a program and then wondering what happened to that, where's that ROI. Make sure that you really do embed the value. And that's the next bullet point, really. The value to you of development almost inevitably adds value to your organisation. So giving L&D professionals the impact, the influence to really become effective will transfer into the organisation, making more effective organisations. That takes a lot of communication, that takes a lot of engagement, a lot of influence. And all of that really does add up to helping you deliver a learning culture that lasts, that is sustainable in the organisation. It's sort of a virtuous circle. We began to feel that we were developing a virtuous circle of developing L&D professionals, being able to demonstrate the impact of that development, then sort of embeds in the organisation, which begins to value learning and development even more. So that was sort of where we came from when we started pulling this programme together. So having said that we knew it needed to be modular, having also acknowledged that none of you are time rich, we've got to make the most of the time we could spend with you. So we've got a modular design. The first one very much focused on aligning that L&D strategy with the organisational strategy. So sort of nuts and bolts really of giving you some tools and approaches that help you align the L&D with organisational strategy. And in a way, this is Inga's L&D expertise piece, helping you to just make the most of the knowledge that you have and adding some knowledge to that. Then the second bullet really, design, delivery and evaluation of interventions to ensure maximum impact. That's really the OD expert piece, because very rarely, well, we do it sometimes, but very often the development that we are involved with is at the individual level, where we're developing individual executives and managers, but with a view to them having a wider organisational impact, so actually changing the culture through individual development. So that piece is speaking to the OD expert bit. And then the third piece, developing your personal influencing skills, is being the grit that forms the pearl and helping you to really have impact as individuals. So that is module 1, really trying to deal with all of that. Then in module 2, we're looking at how to understand and deliver the whole process. You do this on a daily basis, so we wanted to really deliver excellence in how you choose a supplier, how you engage with a supplier, right through to how a program is delivered. So that partnering with suppliers, and the point earlier really about L&D being a consultant, there's a lot of consultancy skills in here, knowing how to work to deliver organisational need. And then that last piece, which is obviously crucial, ensuring the transfer of learning, making sure that whatever happens does get back into the organisation and adds value. And also this is a very dynamic process, because organisational needs are changing all the time. So a programme that you might procure in April one year for delivery in December that year, maybe, organisational needs will have changed, and that's where that partnering with the suppliers matters, and that's where consultancy skills are relevant. In between these two modules, we've got a live intermodular project, which is what we call action research. So this isn't a project being delivered to you on high by senior executives. This is something that is to do with your everyday work and something that you need to do. And we will work with an action research process as a structure to really help you deliver value into something that you've got to do anyway. And as you do it, you'll be reflecting and mirroring on what's going on, what you're learning, what effect you're having. And through that action research project and some other pieces of work we'll be asking you to do, we're offering a route to a certificate in L&D. A little bit more, you will be able to access a diploma, and potentially with some research involved into your own practice, there'll be a master's degree available as well. So we're hoping to offer recognition for the excellence that you can deliver through the interventions that we're going to offer. So I guess we'd like to sort of finish up our input to this and then open it up to you. We'd like to obviously, we'd like to think about how you could begin to start on this path sort of immediately, if you like. And if we go back to that slide 4 again, and we remember those two things that seem to be really ticking boxes, making time for your own development. Well, first of all, acknowledging the need for some development is really critical. But I put here, first of all, that self-awareness is the key. And I really feel this is so important, because L&D leaders are no different from leaders in other business functions in any sector. If you ask any serious, successful leader, you know, what's been the key, they say understanding myself, knowing what I'm good at, knowing where I can stretch myself, knowing where I can develop, knowing what I could stop doing. So this self-awareness is really the key, and how to develop that is making sure that you have a really clear understanding of how you are coming across. I think we've mentioned it already today, but L&D professionals must be role models for learning, and it's so important for you to show the people that you're providing for that you are walking the talk, practicing what you preach, and that your performance is really being enhanced by your investment in your own development. And we think that that's something that is a really good starting point to know what would be helpful for you to become more effective and to actually begin to invest time. And I know resources always limited. Time, diary time, talking to other people. And I'm going to ask my colleagues to say a little bit more about this because I know they both feel quite passionate about it.
Sorry,
yeah,
Inga.
go on, Lucy.
Just looking back at the comments on the chat and looking at the different opinions, I think something that's coming out, there's the conversations about 70-20-10 and comments about the organisation. I think understanding your stakeholders and really understanding your organisation and thinking about the culture. So back to the OD expert again. We deal with clients who have lots of different cultures, and the culture really deeply affects what happens to learning and development in the organisation. So I think truly understanding your stakeholders is absolutely critical, because you can't operate 70-20-10 and truly unless you understand what's going on in your organisation and how the learning culture is in your organisation and how you can affect that.
Yes, and to build on that, I think coming from the research, it was quite key that where a lot of the L&D professionals started their journey of growing in their influence was in proactively going out in the organization and build their internal network, but also going out externally and build their network outside. Going out and try to build robust relationships. On the one hand, that will allow you to understand the real issues going on in the organization. So not mainly going out and talk about your L&D expertise or what you do in L&D, but really go out and explore what is important to them and what their challenges are and what they are facing nowadays. So these conversations will really help you understand what the actual needs are, and building the relations over time will offer you opportunities to also challenge the organization and push back. And I know it's a process and it will take time, but I feel it's quite crucial that you develop yourself also in a way that you feel more comfortable and confident in doing that and engaging with people in the organization and outside the organization.
Thanks, Inga. If I could just pick up on that last bullet point we've got on this slide. Those of you, well, there'll be lots of you who recognise that this is sort of the action research structure, and it's about reflecting on what's going on the impact that you're having, on the results that you're getting with whatever actions you take. Reflecting on that and then replanning in the light of that reflection. Replanning about whether what you did had the impact that you thought, whether it had something better or perhaps something completely unexpected. Reflecting on that helps you to plan the next step, and this not only applies to your L&D role, but also to your own development. And then the word experimentation is quite important. You know, they don't have to be massive seismic shifts in what you do. Experimentation about doing things differently can be relatively small, but it's really important to go back to that reflection. Okay, tried that, what happened? Was it different? Now what should I do? And that is a continual learning cycle, if you like. As I say, most of you will be familiar with it, but if you take time to apply that to yourselves and your own development, it might be that some results would be pleasantly surprising quite quickly. Yeah, I see we've got there. Tangible results seem to be a fundamental pinch point. What are views on that? Yeah, I'd be interested to get some comments on that, because results, as I say, can be unexpected. Whatever you do, whatever action you take, will always have a result, but it may not be the one that you planned. So getting involved in that cycle really helps you to find out what works and what doesn't.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. I think, thank you very much, ladies. We've come to the end of sort of our content, but we'd be really interested in getting some more thoughts and comments from you. If you would like to put your hand up, we can unmute your line. Unfortunately, a few people who, if you didn't enter your attendee ID number, your phone line might not have connected to your name, so we may not be able to unmute that line. But give it a go if you've got something to say, and if not, we'll let you type into that chat panel, and we'll answer in that way. I don't know if there's anything else I saw come up that we've missed. I don't know if there's anything any of you guys had seen. I know a lot of people were asking about how to create a learning culture. I know we've covered that slightly, but is there anything else we can add on there?
Yeah, I mean, what I was saying earlier about the 70-20-10, that 70% is so important. So trying to get people to understand that learning is not just about being sent off on a program, that they can be learning, every day on the job, and trying to develop, I believe coaching skills are critical. If you can have a coaching culture, that sort of by its very definition implies that there is a developmental culture, because coaching is all about development. And if one of the things we mentioned earlier about supporting line managers, really giving them sensitive coaching skills, not that they need to book an hour in the diary every 6 weeks to coach somebody, but over a cup of coffee, over a water cooler conversation, the concept of development being embedded in every sort of interaction that a line manager has with a direct report actually goes a long way to taking the notion of an L&D culture forward, because everybody knows that's what they're doing. It helps people deliver of their best. It helps people feel stretched, helps people feel they have opportunities. It's a very powerful way of trying to have a developmental culture. See that point, very little gets measured. That's interesting.
Yes, there's a big discussion going on around proving evidence and how do you measure impact, etc. And Martine was saying that very little in her organization gets measured, so it's very difficult to get evidence results. But evidencing behavior change is indeed a very good way to make concrete what has happened. And in working with clients, we often, a couple of months after the program, we go back in and do, for example, impact journaling and trying to capture what has happened for participants after they got back to work, and what worked and what didn't. And the stories that come up then are so powerful that if they are shared with the rest of the organization, that has a really big impact. And that is indeed evidence sharing.
Thanks, Inga. The only thing I thought that came up earlier that I thought was quite interesting was that someone had said the immediate supervisor can make or break the development, and I think I've had that experience in past organisations that is true. How would we address that? Is that about stakeholder management and influencing skills?
I think it is very much so. I mean, we have lots of experience here of people coming onto a program, really enjoying it, feeling they've really benefited from it. They go back to work and they feel that their organisation doesn't make room for them to use their new knowledge and skills. And that's such a shame, because then it just sort of dissipates. So it is around offering support, ongoing support, and understanding that a development program or intervention of any sort doesn't end at the end of the program. It really has to be carried on. The learning has to be part of ongoing relationships.
So if I can move on and bring us into final thoughts. So I thought what might be nice is that if each of our presenters sort of leaves you with what they feel is probably the most important thing for you to take away today. So we can run through in that order that's on the slide, ladies. That'd be lovely.
I'm just really excited by this programme. I'm awed, I guess, awed by the number of people who are attending the webinars and are showing interest in this topic. It seems that L&D professionals are really hungry for learning, and I think that's fantastic. So I really hope that we can move forward together.
Yes, and there are some comments next to my picture, but maybe for now, and also conscious of time, I think it is about thinking how you can make little steps in each of the three areas and start connecting the dots and start on the almost upward journey where you can create a virtuous cycle. I think that is maybe key, and that has elements of it in it of starting to build the right relationships, having the right conversations, working on your own development and all of that. So it is thinking about what steps can I take and what actions can I take in each of the three areas that will help me move on. And like Tricia said, and also Lucy said it earlier, we're happy to help and support you, and we're quite passionate also to make that work for you. So thanks for joining us.
Mine is really about the fact that you are all people, and by nature busy, because people are iterative and they want to have conversations and understand what's going on. So make sure you give yourself some time. You are seen as the trusted advisor at the heart of the business and so critical to its success going forward. Make sure that you give yourself time, whatever that development looks like, whatever that reflection looks like, make sure you give yourself time to do that.
Thank you very much. I can see that a few more comments are coming through. I don't know if we're going to have time to answer those right now, but if you would like to get in touch with us after today, then please do feel free. And also, if you want to post your comments or questions using the hashtag on Twitter, we can always reply to you on there as well.
I just see a comment from Roy coming in, and he says, work done at Ashridge a few years ago showed that business leaders don't necessarily want or need ROI calculations, but they do want to see that training is impacting behavior. Yes, I agree, and I was referring to that earlier. There has been an article from my colleagues in one of our publications that is talking around that issue. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, thank you, Inga. So all that really remains to say is thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your thoughts and comments. Before you do leave, I would love it if you could just give us a little bit of feedback on today. Andy's just going to bring up another poll for you. If you could just fill out that, I think all the questions are optional choice, so that'd be really good. And then we can kind of learn and make sure that as we move forward with these webinars, we can be really giving you what you would like and what you need. But yeah. Thank you to everyone here today. Thank you for my presenters and to Andy, and to everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.